Absolutely. I can remember the current union president, when he first came on the job, he used to give me a ride part of the way home. And the first thing he did was light a marijuana cigarette as soon as we got around the corner from the firehouse.
Drug and alcohol was there since day one that I got on the job.
You know, Menino is by far the most corrupt mayor there is. They take care of the chiefs. They keep us in line. No dissent will ever come out. The union, the current union regime, goes back 15 years. They pretty much assassinated the character of our previous union president.
Very stressful with all this. I mean, it's cost my family lots of grief, including my mother and my brothers. I have a brother that's sick, and so forth. The union is not helping us first generation guys to pull through with all this chaos that's going on with the fire department.
All right, no representation.
No representation whatsoever.
And they get to pick and choose which grievances go forward. And naturally, if you're a minority, that's not going to happen. Anyone that's a dues-paying member that files a grievance should have his grievance brought forward. I realize there's an expense and there's a need to sift through and find out what is credible and what is not. But it appears at this point that anything filed by a minority is not credible.
Because I was forced to retire, they tricked me. As you recall, I was exonerated in the federal court of law. I was no part of the investigation.
With the new administration, he seems like a decent man, nothing like before. And he knows his established political machine that goes back to the 60s. You know, Menino is by far the most corrupt mayor there is. Living in Boston, working in Boston, like me, have my property rights stolen. I mean, they utilize city agencies and departments to punish and reward people. When Albert was exonerated, because it was revealed in court, he was never part of the FBI investigation. It was after the FBI investigation was called off by the U.S. Attorney via the Justice Department. They needed to conclude it because of notoriety. They needed something to show for it. The only reason that chief was there is because while it was still active, he was the first one that was already initiated. But they were going to dispense with that, you know. But it was also during the contractual negotiations and the campaign disparagement, and they were all minorities, like the Tony Gasson situation, your situation. And when you were exonerated, there was silence from City Hall. They wouldn't answer the press. About a week later, they feed him a story that he's in the process, he's contesting to get his job back for arbitration. You never had any process initiated, never spoke to anybody from the city, the department, or the union about any arbitration or any negotiations.
Right
Because
after
they knew,
the exoneration.
they knew you should have been immediately made whole and returned to duty as you were. You never claimed that you couldn't work, that you were coming back from a minor injury. You never claimed you couldn't carry a clipboard. You wanted to do your job. When he went there, he told him, you're all done. You have to put in your papers. What that means is that you're involuntarily retired. They literally had a car waiting outside with Edmund Street, a firefighter, drive him right to City Hall to do it. In fact, when they asked in court, how long does it normally take for a disability pension to be processed? At 2.5, 4 years. And they said, and his was processed in 2 weeks, and it wasn't even his writing on the documents. He just assumed he was being voluntarily retired. They concocted the story, the thing that he couldn't carry his clipboard, that he didn't want to work. He was just briefly on a minor injury from falling on the stairs, had nothing to do with his existing injury for why he does his desk job, which is well documented. It's a serious thoracic spine injury. It's going to require surgery. Young Jimmy Burlow was captain of the Boston Fire Department, over 23 years on the job. I got appointed in October 1987. It was my ambition to be a fireman my entire life. I was a former union carpenter, and I took a 63% pay cut to become a probationary firefighter. But speaking of unions, I had a union. I know what a union is. Boston Fire does not, and never really has. It's only regarded as a union sanctioned, so more like tolerated because of Boston Fire's historical prestige. I mean, our union has firefighters, company officers, and chiefs. There's no other occupation, career, job, or any city department or agency that has that. So essentially, you have labor, management, which would be me, and executive, and even the head of the department. I mean, so it can't work. And it was a weakness that was exploited by the city of Boston. When Menino became mayor, there was a sudden, real palpable change in the department and the mood. And the first thing he did was not renew our commissioner, Leo Stapleton, who was also chief of department, who was a fantastic fireman, incredible experience, chief, did more to revamp the department and improve conditions. Under the Menino administration, it became a lot of neglect. We went a good 10 years without apparatus, equipment.
Hold on, slow down.
Yeah.
Now cut to the Menino thing. I'm going to get you from this angle. Under the Menino,
And under Menino, the department really suffered. And for some reason, he felt he had a stranglehold, and that's the one department he couldn't subdue. The department never had problems with abuses of overtime, sick leave, or any of this stuff here. And we went a good 10 years without new apparatus, equipment, fire gear, training, even cost of living, even essential life safety stuff. And he appointed, we've had 3 consecutive commissioners that have been progressively worse, that were strictly puppets of Menino. There was a big thing. Once you got rid of the chief of department and commissioner, the other arm you had to handle was the union, which is essentially is an arm of headquarters personnel. In fact, headquarters personnel is where most of the dirty deeds come because of the strict scale, hierarchical nature of the job with the rank system. There's a real separation. They take care of the chiefs. They keep us in line. No dissent will ever come out. The union, the current union regime, goes back 15 years. They pretty much assassinated the character of our previous union president, who was successful for 16 years getting reelected, and at least there was some semblance of a union, even though technically it is not a union. He wanted the chiefs out because they were weakness. They assassinated this guy's character. Ironically, they made it like it was an ethical crisis. They said he bought tires for the car he was for union business with the union credit card. This union here lost $2 million. Can't explain why. $1 million from the Florian Fund. They garnish our wages for a year, all of our holiday checks, 13 months, to pay back without any explanation. As far as I know, in 15 years, there's not one grievance that's been carried to fruition.